Hello and welcome to Smartkarma's corporate webinar. I'm Sanam Nanwani from Smartkarma. This week we are hosting KTMG Limited. We are glad to have with us KTMG CEO, Mr. Damien Lim, and CFO, Mr. Bong Wee Khong. We will start the webinar with Mr. Damien and Mr. Bong walking us through a company presentation, after which they will engage in a fireside chat with Smartkarma Insight Provider, Angus Mackintosh. We are taking live Q&A, so I would like to request our attendees to post questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. During the webinar, we will also share some links on how you can connect with KTMG and read more research by Angus. So please do keep a lookout for messages in the chat box. I now hand it over to Mr. Damien and Mr. Bong to walk us through a short company presentation. Please.
Hi, good afternoon, late afternoon, everyone. My name is Damien. I'm the CEO of the KTMG Limited, listed in Singapore Catalyst Board. Today, I'm going to introduce our company to all of you guys, and we have three agenda today. The first agenda will talk about the company overview, and then followed by the second agenda will be our financial highlights that will be presented by our CFO, Mr. Bong. And lastly, will be followed up by a business outlook and the strategy going forward statements. Let's take about a glance on our company's overviews. We are listed in the Catalyst Board of Singapore Stock Exchange since 2019, and we are an integrated textile and apparel manufacturers. And we have more than 30 years of experience in contract manufacturing of apparels, specializing in athleisure wear, casual wear, loungewear, and the pyjamas for various wages. And with the facility in both Malaysia and Cambodia. In 2019, we expand upstream into knitting, dyeing, and finishing of fabrics with our very own textile manufacturing facility in Batu Pahat, Johor, Malaysia. And in 2022, we set up a subsidiary in Vietnam to explore the potential opportunity in the Vietnam market. And this is our key products category, which involve athleisure wear, which is a very popular segments in today's markets, casual wear, loungewear, and the pajamas on the right-hand corner. This is our apparel products. We have two manufacturing facility in Malaysia. So we have one garment factories. We have one production manufacturing in Malaysia and two apparel manufacturing facility in Cambodia. So combined Malaysia and the Cambodia, we total have about 44 lines of production lines. And we have a roughly workforce about nearly to 2,000 workers, and with the annual production capacity of the 31.1 million pieces per year. And this is our textile manufacturing facility that located in Batu Pahat, Malaysia, Johor. Today we have about 115 workforce total together, and our annual capacity is 34 million kilo per year. Being the integrated apparel and the textile manufacturers, our operation span from the upstream, which is a textile manufacturing, to our downstream, which is a contract apparel manufacturer. So simple to say is we make fabrics, and then from fabrics until the finished apparels that retail in the markets. And this slide is showing about all the our process, which is involving our upstream, we call the textile manufacturing process, which is turn our yarns into fabric, and another downstream apparel manufacturing process, which turn the fabric into clothes products. So with our integration, close integrations, we are able to manage the process from knitting of yarns, dyeing, finishing, settings, become a finished fabric, Then by using our CAD/CAM pattern design systems, we can actually do the grading and markup of our products, and then cutting, silk screen printing, and then a sewing assembling line. At the end of the lines, we will do a steaming, flow and pack, and actually cutting and send it to the container for export purposes. And we also get various certification from these reputable international organizations, such as we are member of the Better Cottons Initiative, BCI, and we also awarded Global Recycling Center, GRS, and our dyeing mill is actually certified by the Ocotex Standard 100s, and all our apparel manufacturing facility are certified by REPS, which is a very well-known social compliance standards in the world, and both of our Cambodia factory also participated in the ILO's certification programs. And we also having the BSCI, which is a widely acceptable social compliance certificates from Europe. And the financial highlight, I will leave it to our CFO, Mr. Bong, to continue the presentation.
All right, good afternoon. Shall we move on? Right. Okay. Our revenue was 106.3 million for financial year 2022 compared to 97.8 million a year ago. This was an improvement of 8.6%. Our gross profit also was boosted by 18.6% to 16.1 million during the year compared to 13.6 in the previous year. Our GP margin improved to 15.2%, up by 1.3% from 2021's 13.9%. With the improvement, our group's EBITDA increased by 22.3% to 7.5 million compared to 6.1 million a year ago. Profit before tax hiked by 36.3% to 4.4 million compared to previous year's profit before tax of 3.2 million. Net profit attributable to shareholders also rose by 63.9% to Sing dollar 3.5 million compared to 2.1 million in 2021. Accordingly, our earnings per share or EPS was a positive 2.04 cents as opposed to 1.25 cents in the previous year. Revenue-wise, our compounded annual growth rate or CAGR between 2019 and 2022 was 7%. In 2022, our revenue improvement to 106.3 million was driven by surge in apparel orders placed by customers in the United Kingdom and Canada. This year, the UK, United States, EU, and Canada were the group's largest markets, accounting for 41.4%, 27.1%, 17.3%, and 10.3% respectively. Geographically, our increase in revenue was attributable to increase in revenue contribution from the UK and Canada of 15.1 million and 9.5 million. This was partially offset by decline in contribution from US and EU of 13.8 million and 2.3 million respectively. During the year, there was increased orders from our existing major customer in the UK, while we managed to secure a new customer for children's wear in Canada. These increases helped us cushion the dampened demand in US and EU, which were deeply affected by soaring inflation from the Ukraine-Russia war, followed by continuous interest rate hikes by central banks. Gross profit-wise, our GP hovered between 13.2 million to 13.6 million for the period between 2019 to 2021. We broke through to 16.1 million last year. Last year, our GP rose by 80.6% to 16.1 million due to surge in apparel orders explained earlier. So accordingly, our GP margin improved by 1.3% to 15.2%. This was from improved economies of scales that resulted in labor costs and factory overhead savings. Our group has recorded net profit for 3 consecutive years since 2020, with CAGR of 77% for the 4-year period. In 2019, we reported net loss of dollar 1.9 million due to one-off 2.5 million non-cash transaction and acquisition costs arising from the reverse takeover then. After adjustment, the net profit was dollar 0.6 million. For 2022, our net profit attributable to shareholders was 3.5 million Sing dollar, an improvement of 63.9% due to higher revenue and cost savings from economies of scale. However, this was moderated by higher administration and general expenses and also finance costs. I guess that's all, and then I hand it back to Damien.
Okay, let's think about the business outlook of our companies. Going forwards, we anticipated the inflation and the interest rate to be moderate and the global economy outlooks to improve in the late 2023. So that will be providing a more stable business environment to strategy and to plan for the future growth. So at this moment, we are also benefit from capturing the US and the China trade tension, especially on the recent US ban on the import of Xinjiang cotton to the United States. So we have a lot of US customers, retailers, they wanted to continue to diversify from their reliance on the Chinese manufacturer to our Southeast Asian makers. And we are continuing to seek to expand our foothold through our references and the recommendation for our existing customer to another industrial contact. And we also positioning for the opportunity and the longer term of growth by streamlining our textile and apparel manufacturing operation for a maximum operation efficiency to produce the right product in the right country. And our apparel operation in Cambodia and Vietnam, and our textile operation in Malaysia. And our strategy going forward will be focusing on a high value brand extensions. And secondly, we are actually looking at the expansion of our capacity in both our apparel manufacturing facility in Cambodia, which we are intend to increase another additional 7 lines in Cambodia. And we also aim to upgrade our equipment for our textile manufacturing plant in Malaysia. And we also, at the moment, we're also working with a partnership program with another apparel manufacturer in Vietnam to expand our additional capacity in Vietnam. In the downstream expansion, we are actually exploring apparel branding opportunity, either with the acquisition of existing brands or creating our own brands or the licensing of other brands as well. Thank you. This is my presentation today.
Great, Damien. Thanks very much, and thank you, Damien and Ms. Bong. That's very interesting. And obviously, you had a very strong, year of growth last year, which is not a particularly easy year. So that in itself is pretty impressive. I just want to, maybe we can sort of take a step back very briefly, just to give those who haven't sort of met the company before a little bit of historical perspective. What was the sort of original driving force between the founding of the company, behind the founding of the company in Malaysia?
Yes, actually the KTMG, the company is actually started a family-owned business that is founded by my parents. My father, which is senior, Mr. Lim Senior, who was graduated from Taiwan. So he graduated with the textile engineer degree in Taiwan. Then after that, after he graduated, he got hired by a Taiwanese textile company and sent him over to Singapore, Malaysia, to actually setting up the yarn spinning mills in Singapore and Malaysia at that time. So in the late 70s, he decided to setting up his own businesses. That's why we moved to Johor, Batu Pahat, and he started the first business as a knitting manufacturing. Then slowly, after a couple of years, then he started to venture into the apparel manufacturing. And then up to 1988, he started to actually doing the export business to the European markets. So I'm joining the company in the 2002. So I've been spending my last 21 years in the industrials. So it's been a long journey with the company. And then I think with our growth in the past 30 years, they show that we are constantly doing well, and then we can overcome all the obstacles during the last 30 years until today.
Very interesting. And where were, so the first customers for the company on the textile manufacturing side of things were in Europe, were they?
Our first customer actually is, like I said earlier, we actually started with making the local markets. So
Right.
we are starting making polo shirt and t-shirt for the Malaysian Singapore market at the time during the early 80s. I think my father last time, there was a lot of sourcing agent located in Singapore. So because of that, my father started to work with the agency in Singapore and started to tap into the European markets. He started with the UK, actually. It's the first market to get into it. And the customer today is still working with us, even though it has been now more than 30 years now. But we are still working very strong with this UK customer. And that customer also remain as our major customer up to today.
Right. And that would be, I mean, I'm not sure if you can reveal the names of customers, but these would be household names that people would recognize.
Yeah, I'm afraid that I cannot disclose.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
but there would be sort of high street brands that we would recognize if say you're from the UK or from Canada or the US.
Yeah, they are in the yes. People from the UK, especially the suburban area, will recognize their name.
Right, very interesting. And then you started off producing garments in Malaysia, and then when was the decision made to move that garment manufacturing to Cambodia?
I made the decision moving from Malaysia to Cambodia somewhere around 2006. That time is because Malaysia has actually upgraded the status from least development country to a developing country. So because of the upgrade of the status by UN, and the Malaysia actually forced to graduate from the EU GSP programs. So at that time, for such a meaning that is before the 2006 Malaysian export to European unions will receive duty-free treatments. So after 2006, when Malaysia graduated from this EU, we call the EU GSP programs, everything from Malaysia export to European will be subject to a 12.9% import duty. So that is a reason my customer is actually supporting me to ask me to move the production facility from Malaysia to Cambodia in order to get the benefit of the duty-free access to the EU market.
Right, understood. But you do still keep some manufacturing of garments in Malaysia. Presumably, those garments they're not shipped to the EU; they're shipped to other destinations.
That's why we are working with True Strategy. In Malaysia, we are making the products for non-EU country, and in Cambodia, we focus on the EU markets.
Right, and then and obviously, Vietnam is a a more recent expansion.
Mm-hmm.
That manufacturing is under a partnership model, is that right? Or is it very early days for apparel manufacturing in Vietnam?
Yes, actually, I've been exploring in Vietnam back in 2015 and 16, and then after that, initially my plan is going to Vietnam and then setting up a textile factories and the garment factory all together. So for some reason, after the research and everything, I decided to actually put a plan to set up setting up this plan in Malaysia instead of Vietnam. So this is the second time I'm going to Vietnam. So the reason why we are going to Vietnam is because after the COVID, we feel that we need to actually diversify and our production regions. Because like during the COVID times, sometimes different company, different country, different government have different policy. So in order to split the risk, so it will be better for us to open up another alternative production space in Vietnam. So that's the reason in 2022 I'm going down again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask actually because just the diversification to upstream activities, which is very interesting. You know, weaving, fabric, and production and dyeing. You know, what were the main reasons for doing that? And you've already mentioned that you were going to go potentially going to go to Vietnam, but you decided to stay in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Could you give us a little bit of background on the reasoning behind that move?
The reason behind that is very simple, because before we have this fabric mill setting up, we are just purely, we call a cut and sew manufacturer. That means we buy fabric material from other suppliers. We just make a cut and sew manufacturing and then ship it to our customers. So actually, the fabrics, if we're able to provide our own fabric, it actually give us a better control of about our raw material, especially the supply of raw material. And we our own this fabric manufacturing facility, we can actually produce the fabric with a specific requirements, and then with a specific quality controls, and then it also can reduce our production lead time. We have a better control of our production costs. In terms of that, it will give us a more cost saving and improved margin. And it also makes us more competitive than our competitor.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can imagine that the lead times and the quality and everything else, if you're controlling it yourselves, is much better. You can have a much better vertical integration.
Yeah, because in my view, you see, the fabrics, the raw material, which is in our terms, the fabrics is actually comprised more than 50% of apparels. So. Yeah. So if I'm able to manage these fabrics well in terms of quality specification, we actually half of our job has been done before we ship it to the Vietnam and Cambodia for productions. So this will be a very, very important key things in our manufacturing business.
Right, and the raw material cost that you're exposed to would be the cotton yarn cost, would it? And obviously the cost of the dyeing materials. Yeah. Are those I mean, cotton prices, have they been quite volatile over the last sort of 2 or 3 years? Or, I mean, just looking at the longer term trends that have happened with the raw materials, I'm just trying to get a feeling about how much cyclical risk that you might face, where the risks might be with the upstream business.
Okay, actually, because in our industrial, we don't have a lot of customers. We usually work with a small group of customers. And then in all the production, we have a production planning in the heads. For example, right now, before every season, the customer will give us a projection, so we can actually project the quantities is going to be for the next season. So for that, we can actually order our raw material in advance. So in the situation of a raw material, let's say the cotton price jack up in the market, usually we will have pre-booked the raw material with our suppliers in India or in other places. And then we will enjoy more benefit when the raw material price go up in the market, because to us it's only the fluctuation is only in the raw material, which we can secure much earlier than it happened.
Right. So you'll buy ahead. I mean, what kind of level of inventory would you keep in terms of your raw material needs?
Usually we will base on the customer projection to give it to us, because normally the customer will actually give us a projection. Then based on the projection, we will make the estimation. So we don't want to be too exposed to the overstocks, and then we also don't want to be too low from the expected quantity that we want. So we will manage this really quite well. So because we are not that, because most of the customers, they are working us have been with us for the very, very long times. So we are holding much of their core items, which they need it every year, every seasons. So we can very much predict, and well, not say predict, we will pretty much knowing what type of volume and quantity they are looking for each seasons. Yeah.
Right. And where does you mentioned India as one country where you source the cotton from? Do you source it from a number of different geographical locations?
Yes. Currently our yarn sourcing will be covered India. We also source from Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. Right.
So you have a kind of diverse sort of sourcing base for
yes,
for the raw materials as well.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And just, I mean, very briefly on sort of dyeing materials, is that a very important cost component?
It's a very, it's an important cost component, but it's not as high as a raw material such as yarn. Yarn is comprising much more better this component in the fabrics.
Right. And you would you be I mean, sort of in terms of the machinery that's required for that fabric and dyeing, that I guess is all quite up-to-date machinery, and you know, nowadays everything's done, a lot of it's done digitally, and the screen printing and so on would be digital.
Yeah. Yes. We have in Cambodia, our screen printing. We are talking about screen printing. We have our own. We have a facility in Cambodia doing the screen printing using machineries. So
right.
For our fabrics, ourselves is that we don't make all kinds of fabrics. In our fabric, this textile manufacturing facility, we are quite focused on 3 to 4 key items.
Right.
Yeah. So whatever that we cannot supply ourselves, we will also outsource from other supplier as well. So we want to make something, because like I say, we have a lot of major key order items. We know what type of fabric our customer is looking for. So our own textile manufacturing, we are focusing on manufacturing these a few key category of fabric. We can make it much better, cost effective, and then as far as the quality control will be better.
Right. And you're also, you know, involved, you know, with the customers in the design process, I understand, for their garments. I mean, how much are you involved in that, in creating the garment, the design of the garment and that kind of thing? How does it start, the process?
We have a very close collaboration with our customers. As I mentioned before, most of our customers are working for us for quite a long time. So we call this a co-creation model, which we are involved quite extensive and lengthy development process with our customer. We decide what type of styling we want to make, and then we decide what type of material they are going to use. So I think our customer will be very happy. They also were sharing with us some of the data of the previous styles. For example, we have made something very great that a lot of consumer buying it. The sales are very good. So the next season, we will actually do some improvement on the product. So we are ongoing, working very closely with our customer to keep all these best sellers selling better, and then try to create new things for the markets.
Right, very, very interesting. And the sort of, you know, in terms of the manufacturing of the apparel in say in Malaysia and in Cambodia, that's purely geography specific. Is there any difference in the quality you produce in Malaysia and the quality you produce in Cambodia?
The quality will be the same because it's still under our own management to control. So I would say the type of the garments, the type of the apparels, and the quality will be the same across 2 countries.
Right, and you have mentioned that you're looking to sort of do more value-added sales or higher value products.
Mm-hmm.
What would you define as being a higher value product, or is it a targeting like a higher, a more affluent customer, or is it just using more complex lighter cottons and other materials? I mean, how do you define that?
Yes, we are right now is because traditionally our company is quite strong in loungewear and the sleepwear productions. So recently we focused our product strategy and wanted to go into athleisure products, because the athleisure wears apparently is the fastest growing segment in the fashion market today. So we are actually tapping into this direction and the opportunity. And we also started to, in fact, we actually has been secure orders with a top 10 athleisure top leisures retailer in the world. So we are also now working with others, a few 1 or 2 brands, which is also the top 10 athleisure retailer in the world. So we're trying to approach more high-end markets. And because right now, because we are the fully integrated these textile and apparel players, we have much more better control on our qualities of raw materials. So this is why the top 10 athleisure players retailer in the world are always looking for.
Right. Okay. Got, yeah. So because I mean, obviously that's I mean, the trend towards athleisure, where I guess was given a bit of a boost by the pandemic. You know, people would be at home and wanted to be in comfortable clothes. But I mean, I guess that trend has definitely stuck. And in terms of materials, I mean, it's just slightly off the track question, but do you use materials like bamboo, for example, which seems to be quite sort of trendy at the moment?
At the moment, we haven't explored in the bamboo productions, because to handle the bamboo production, you need a specific machineries as well as the procedure and methods. So currently we are doing more a cotton and the poly blend.
Right. So you do sort of blend with polyester and so on as well.
Yes.
So you use the polyester yarn as well as cotton yarn and do the blending, and I guess leisure wear demands a bit of a lot of clothing nowadays has a stretch element to it. I mean, yes, you integrate that into the
and also most of the today we are talking about the sustainability, so we're also using a lot of sustainable materials. Such as the I think just now I've been showing the certification that we get. We are also the member of the BCI. And then we also are producing the fabric that using the recycled polyester fibers.
Right. Yeah.
Then with the organic cotton fibers, so those are in our product portfolios.
Right. So those will be products that you will show to your customers. You know, and will you sort of produce new materials, you know, independent of the customer's demand, and show those materials to the customers? So you're creating, you know, new fabric products to show to them all the time.
Yes, from time to time, we are actually developing a more robust or the more better quality of fabric we're proposing to our customers. Right.
And it's I guess it's a cost plus type of ordering, is it? You're not exposed to any major swings in raw material prices. How does that work with the customers?
I think today our customer is not only looking at the prices. I think customer are more looking at the value that we can actually create to them. Of course, prices is one of the elements in the value. So I think there are some other things also very important, is that the level of the collaboration with the customer on the development stage. I think that's very important. And then as well as the quality that we are producing and the on-time delivery services we are providing. I think with the customer, they're working with us. I think we can ensure that the customer places the order to us, that then he or she can sleep nicely at night and expect our goods to be delivered on time. I think that will be our value providing to our customers.
Right. Yes, I was going to ask, you know, on the whole kind of seasonal element, because I now, you know, with the advent of fast fashion, you know, I mean, the seasons are very, very short. So what would be the sort of the average time between getting the order and actually sending out the garment to the customer? What would be the lead time for that? Would it be 2 months or 3 months or longer?
Normally, we have a different set of a customer. They have a different times, there are different schedules planned. So I would say usually from the designing stage to the delivery will take about 6 to 8 month times.
Right.
Yeah.
So that, yes, I mean, I guess you know, the fashion industry does look a long way ahead when they're coming out with new sort of seasonal collections and so on. But obviously there is a you know, being able to produce on a relatively short lead time is also advantageous for yourselves, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But no doubt, I think our time is quite still reasonable, because I would say because like I said, because all these customers have been working a very long time with us, so they have their production as well. I mean, like, they are not the customer. We are not working with the customer that actually thinking about they want to produce something overnight and then ask her to turn around in 2 weeks or 1 week or something like that. That is not our customers.
No, I understood. And you know, in terms of, I mean, you mentioned, you know, that there's more of a focus on diversifying production away from China, and has that made a big difference? Have you seen sort of new orders coming in as a result of that, do you think?
Yes. And then especially nowadays, because China has their own problem. Beside the Xinjiang cotton, which is actually banned by the U.S. government, and in China also facing the shortage of workers, and then the aging population also means that the workers, the labor force is getting older than before. So and that cost also increased because the wages in China is not cheap anymore.
No.
So I can say Southeast Asia actually, I would say Southeast Asia actually present a great opportunity to actually benefit from the diversification from China.
Yeah.
Because we have a young population in Cambodia and Vietnam. I think the average age of Cambodian is like 24 or 25 years old.
Yeah.
So compared to China, which is a much more aging population out there. So we have more younger workforce in our area, and then I think we should be able to benefit a lot from the new change and the new shift of diversification from China.
Right. I've got a question that's come in, which you mentioned sustainability just a short while ago, and the question has said, is saying, adding to Angus and what Damien mentioned on sustainability, is there anything KTMG is doing to reduce its carbon footprint in manufacturing?
Yes, we actually quite actively in the sustainability practice. We have actually installed both our facility in Malaysia has been installed with the solar panels. So I think the solar panel also improve our group overall energy efficiency in Malaysia. And our fabrics, our textile manufacturing facility also equipped with in-house water treatment plants to actually remove the chemical and the contaminant in our wastewater, and then before they are safely discharged into the environments. So we are playing quite a good role, a major role in helping the environments.
Right, that's very interesting. Because obviously, that is sustainability is a big focus for for investors, and looking at sort of the other thing is that obviously the way that companies treat their workers is obviously seen as being very important, and I'm sure and Cambodia is a great place to invest because of its history, to sort of bring that population, into a more sort of sustainable long-term shape. So yeah, I mean that's very interesting. And ESG generally, I mean, are there any other sort of ESG policies that you would highlight while we're on the subject?
Yes, besides, I think the ESG, I think also including some social as well, right? So our missions, our company mission is to produce a responsible apparel to building a sustainable world. That's our company mission in the whole groups, no matter in Malaysia and in Cambodia. So actually we are also developing in the social compliance aspect. We're also developing a mindful manufacturing concept, which is to develop a more efficient productions procedures, and then paying fair wages and providing a safer workspace to our workers, both in Malaysia and Cambodia.
Right. Yeah, very interesting. I mean, that's obviously is very important, and that is good to hear.
Yeah.
And I mean, sort of the main markets, I mean, you've mentioned obviously you've got sort of a whole mixture of different brands, and you've mentioned that you're sort of moving, slightly more sort of upscale in terms of higher end brands. I mean, how do you sort of look to raise the bar with those? Is it more a question of just making them aware of the quality that you can of a product that you can produce?
Can you ask the question again?
Just how do you engineer that move, from kind of say mid-market to sort of high to mid to high market? Is it through producing new products? I mean, how do you move?
Yes, that is also one of the reasons why we invested in our own textile manufacturing plant in Malaysia, because like I mentioned earlier, the fibers, the fabrics actually comprise more than 50% of t-shirts or polo or any apparels.
Yeah.
So by doing this fabric, the raw material right in the good quality and better quality, actually we solve 50% of the quality issues. So all these big, I would say all these big athleisure player in the market today is actually looking at to work with integrated fabric and apparel manufacturing like us. Okay, they don't want to go out to look for a smaller maker who are actually buying fabric from nowhere, from substandard factories, because of the cheaper fabric price or the cheaper raw material price, something like that, to make their garment. So with the backup and the our integration, we are able to attract more these renowned international brand wanted to working with us.
Right. And you did mention, I mean, that you had won a new customer in Canada, producing children's wear. Is that, how does your customer base look? What does it look like? I mean, were there any other, for example, is there any one customer that makes up more than 5% of sales? Could you give it a little bit of an idea about sort of the customer mix in that sense? Don't need to know the names.
The customers actually, I cannot mention the brands to you, but our customer actually is supplying a lot of product to the Costco.
Oh, okay, right, okay, okay. So that's interesting. So and that would be, I mean, can you give an idea of how many customers that you're catering for? I mean, would it be 10 customers or 30 customers, or is it even larger number than that?
Oh, no, at the moment we have a handfully less than 10 customers in our hand.
Right. So it's quite, you've got a very, you have long-term relationships with customers, and that needs to be developed, and that gives you more visibility.
Yes, because in our industrials, we need to actually reach the economy of scales in order to improve our profitability. Yeah. So by working with a handful of good customers, we can actually, we can actually secure more large volumes products, more large volume orders that will make our production with more efficiencies. So for example, let's say for example, our sales, our revenue in year 2022, about 75% of it is actually contribute by our customer who have more than 5 years working with us.
Right. So the long term, I mean, obviously long-term track record means that they have a very high element of trust in what you can do, and will give you more business. That's kind of the bottom line of it, isn't it?
Like I said earlier, a price is not everything, because people are buying from you because you are providing a value to them. So price, of course, is one of the big elements. Also, we're talking about how is our product development capability, how is the level of collaboration we can provide, whether our quality is okay, or can we do an on-time delivery to them. I think all these are very big elements and contribute to a value that we are even giving to our customers.
Right. I mean, maybe at this stage, could you talk a little bit about, the expansion plans? Because you mentioned you're looking to expand the number of lines, for garment manufacturing. Could you give us some idea about the capex plans for the coming year, and what kind of capacity increases are you looking at?
Okay. We are looking at 2 expansion plans at this moment. So the first thing would be the capacity, which I mentioned earlier. So we plan to have another additional 7 production line for apparel manufacturing facility in Cambodia. So this will be able to increase our apparel manufacturing capacity by about 20%. So the capex involved will be somewhere around $250,000. And also looking at upgrades and purchasing a new equipment for our textile manufacturing facility in Malaysia. So that will help us to increase our textile manufacturing capacity by about 15%. So the capex involvement will be somewhere around $900,000 to $1 million. Right. Apart from that, to expand capex involved to expand our production capacity in Cambodia and Malaysia. In Vietnam, we are actually adopting the partnerships with the local Vietnam apparel manufacturing facility to actually provide more additional capacity for us.
Right. So in Vietnam, you're running a partnership model, so you're using someone else's facilities. You're not having to invest capex in building a factory there, for example. You're using someone else's production facilities. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, in Vietnam. Okay, that's fair enough. What would you say in terms of the outlook for growth, in the coming year? I mean, there are obviously lots of different factors which are influencing demand, and there obviously there still are fears of a potential US recession, and so there are lots of different factors. Inflation is still lingering, higher inflation. I mean, what's your sort of outlook for the coming year, and where do you think are your most interesting markets? Because obviously you saw some big increases in demand from the UK last year, and you obviously won a new customer in Canada, so that was a kind of shift in demand. I mean, how do you see the outlook for this year?
I think the first half is quite challenging. I think the second half, the situation will be turning better for the second half. And then our current order book is until our order book until Q3 is actually quite fully booked. That means that the market recovery, the market start to be recovers. And we also see that the recovery will be actually a drive from the US and the Canada markets. This year. So I think for next year, I think the best will be for 2023 second half of the year will be good, and then 2024 and 2025 will be fully recovered. The reason why I'm saying that is because in the past 12 months we have been experiencing the war between the Ukraine and Russia. We see the inflation are very high, and then we see prices are going up crazy. But apart from that, we also see that a lot of the governments in Europe, a lot of governments also increase the minimum wages for the people.
Yeah.
So I think the interest rates will not be always high. I mean, there must be adjustment for the interest rate, current interest rate. I think the food prices, the inflation prices will not be always high. It will be adjusted as well. So when everything going down, and then people have more money, extra money in the pocket, I think the first thing they will spend is to buy something to make them look good. So I think the apparel fashion business is always the cheapest thing to make yourself to satisfy your wills. I think that is not a very expensive thing to achieve that. So I think when everything go up normal and everything market recover, I think the apparel business will be getting very well.
Right, and you're sort of you're building some new capacity, so that puts you in a good position to cater to that demand when it starts to come through slightly more strongly in the coming years.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Very good. Well, we're sort of running towards the end of the time. Were there any sort of closing remarks that you'd like to make?
Closing remarks. I don't have any closing remarks.
We've gone through an awful lot during this fireside chat, so I much appreciate it. Just checking that we've got one. We've got one question coming in, so let's deal with that last question before I hand you back to Sanam. Is management able to comment on whether Shine is a high threat competitor to KTMG and customers in all of North America?
In North America?
Yes. Shine, the Chinese.
Shein. We call Shein.
Shein, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, Shein. Yes, Shein is I would say Shein is Shein actually create quite I would say not a great impact. It's great impact in the North American market is because they are not considered fast fashion. They actually define themselves as super fast or ultra fast fashion in this area. But I think for a moment, at this moment, yes, they are able to offer a lot of products in a very fast manner with a very low price. But I think this one, the business concept of them might not be sustainable. Yeah, might not be sustainable. So I think temporarily, yes, but to us, because most our customer today, they are not in the fast fashion industry. So our customer is more conservative, and then they also have their own segment of the consumers with them. So I think it will be, and then we are not actually focusing on the teens fashion. I think Shein is more for teens, for more younger people who are not enough money, so they don't have a deep pocket to spend. So they want to buy something where it looks nice and cheap, and then I think there's a trend, and then I think the whole business model might not be sustainable. Yeah. So,
yeah, understood. And you might want to close off. You did mention during your presentation at the end that you might look at potentially investing in your own brand. Is that something we can expect in the very near term?
We are not exploring. We have different options to exploring. There are a couple of the options is on the table for us to evaluate. So the reason why we want to do that is because as we already have upstream, and then we're thinking about there could be something that we can do on the downstream expansions. So because we see there are certain products they are not in the right market yet. Because we are this line, we're producing a lot of apparel fashion for people, then I feel that the market should be lack of something else. So we just wanted to come up with our own brand to fit the gaps in this market. I think we are in a very good position into it.
To do that.
Yes.
Very interesting. Well, yeah, that will be interesting to see how that develops. But thank you very much, Damien, for the presentation, Fireside Chat. It's very interesting. I've learned an awful lot, and I'm sure the audience have as well. At this juncture, I'm going to hand you back to Sanam, and yeah, hope to speak to you very soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Angus. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Angus, for some very interesting questions. And a big thanks to Mr. Damien and Mr. Bong for a detailed insight into KTMG, the challenges in your sector, and the opportunity for KTMG. I would also like to thank our attendees who joined the session live. With that, I would like to wrap up this week's corporate webinar. Thanks again and have a great week ahead. Thank you.